Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution. There's nobody home in Knock Knock.
Not just toothless, but anticlimactic.
Too campy to be scary, Reeves is badly miscast.
Knock Knock tries its hardest to freak us out, but ultimately doesn't go quite far enough.
There may be an inkling of meaning inside Roth's latest hostile venture, but probably not.
It's ultimately more interested in being lurid than provocative.
Often feels like a tongue-in-cheek episode of Red Shoe Diaries.
Fans of Roth are not likely to be disappointed, but for everyone else, the joke's on them.
Although Keanu Reeves has never been noted for his subtlety as a thespian, his performance as a captive husband in Knock Knock could easily be bettered by a stationary object like a chair.
Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
And I'm Grove Street.
And this week we are getting into the 2015 home invasion movie, Knock Knock. Could go by a whole bunch of other genres, I suppose. It's really tough to fit this into one category.
Lots of possibilities for sure.
As always, we structure the podcast so that the first half is spoiler-free. Talk about some things to look for in the film, take a break, go watch the film, come back, and talk about what we just went through together. And as always, movies that we watch have to be at or below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes for both critics and audiences. Should we get to the rotten premise?
Let's get to it. And before I get to the premise, so this is part of a two-part episode series, mini-series, where we each get to pick a Keanu movie because we somehow haven't done a Keanu movie on our podcast yet. And it makes sense. Most of his movies are really rated well, but there's a couple in there for some reason that just didn't catch on like most of the other ones. So
he's one of the greatest actors of our generation. I think everyone would agree with
Absolutely.
that. So it's not surprising that not many of his films qualify, but he's had such a long career. It's not surprising that not every film is going to be for everybody. So I'm glad that we were able to find a couple of gems that, for whatever reason, have been overlooked.
Absolutely. So this week was my choice of a Keanu movie, and I chose this, Knock Knock. And your choice is coming up next week. We'll find out at the end of the podcast what your Keanu movie choice is.
That's right. And I'd never seen this. This is my first time viewing. I think that's probably true for a lot of people, I'm guessing. I think this kind of just flew under the radar.
That's why I picked it, because I don't even know how I stumbled on this movie. It wasn't like I saw a trailer for it or an ad or anything.
I'm not sure anybody did.
Yeah, I don't think anyone did. But I just was like, I was just deep on Shudder or Amazon Horror or something a couple of years ago. And my wife and I were just like, wait, is this a Keanu horror type movie? Like, I never heard, thought it was going to be like an independent movie, but it wasn't. And it just kind of like came out of nowhere. And I really enjoyed it. And I just waiting for an opportunity to have it on our podcast. So I'm excited we got to do this. I'll get to the rotten premise real quick. Two nubile stranded women reveal a sinister agenda after they spend the night with a married architect. Critics, 37%. Audience, 19%. I get this rating for lots of reasons, I think. I get why critics would like it more than the audience, and I get why the audience might not like it.
Yeah, I think it's not for everyone, but I think I would bet that those 19% really enjoyed it.
Totally agree. Yep, those really, really big fans of the movie are that 19%.
And sometimes that's the best place to be. The movies that sometimes I enjoy the most, other people don't like, but the people that do like them really like it, and that's sometimes the best movie to watch.
Totally agree, because then you find somebody else who's also into it, and you're both just like on a level 10 with that movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that was so great. And this whole movie just really, if you haven't seen it, it just comes out of left field, and you just never expect a Keanu movie like this.
Oh, yeah. For a star like this to do a movie like this.
There's some good talent all around this movie, even though
totally. So not a whole lot of background. This came out October 9th, 2015. And I think part of the reason no one had ever heard of this, it only opened in 22 theaters in the entire country. And it was only in theaters for 2 weeks. It made $18,000 its first weekend, and for a total of $33,000 domestically. It was bought for $2.5 million at Sundance after it premiered there. And I think it was one of these deals that they kind of intentionally made it for streaming services. Like, I think in this in this era, people realize that this type of sort of genre exploitation type style film, it's just probably not meant for mass audiences, and that the real money is to be made in the streaming. So I don't exactly know how these contracts work, but I feel like it's one of these things where they probably had to run it in theaters for some contractual agreement. I assume. I don't really know anything about it, but that's my guess, is that this was sort of designed to be a streaming type movie. This came in 59th at the opening weekend.
Wow.
One behind the 20th week of San Andreas.
Oh, okay. That was enjoyable.
So it somehow it made a lot more money abroad. I think it ended up being in theaters in non-US countries. It made $5.5 million internationally. So, and then I'm sure it made a lot more on streaming services where you and I saw it. And also, it only cost $3 million to make. So I think this is another one of these things that this still probably made a lot of people a lot of money. And it is a remake. It's not an original, but it was a remake of a 1977 movie, Death Game.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the Death Game, the original?
I didn't. Did you see any of it?
I just watched the trailer and the end scene and a couple other ones that were like on YouTube, but it's pretty funny. Like, I mean, it's just like not line for line, but like scene for scene in a lot of instances where it's it's a remake, but it doesn't feel like it feels very original when you watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out after seeing this. So yeah, not much else in terms of background. I mean, I think it's kind of one of those movies that the less you know, just go into it.
It's definitely we will make a point to not have any spoilers here in the first part, because the less you know about it, for sure. All right, let's get right into Bolo. Be on the lookout.
All right, my first one, and this is much like you love newspapers in movies. This is one of my movie loves, and I don't know if it's come up yet on the podcast. I love when there are photographs in movies, and I like thinking about that they had to take these photographs with the stars, especially when they're sort of older. That doesn't come up here, but there are quite a lot of family photos. So just Bolo family photos.
Absolutely. I have that down as well. But I love photos too. And I love the ones that it shows it didn't come up in this one, but when they show the main actors as a kid, they had to go back to their moms and get the old clippings to put in the movie. I love that whole idea. I'll go even a little bit before that, but the intro to the movie has lots of distribution company and producing company graphics before the movie starts. There's that Family Guy episode where he's at the movies and he keeps getting tricked by the production company intros.
It's somewhat pretty elaborate here.
Very elaborate ones. You're like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And you're like, oh, that's not the movie. That's just the production company. All right, well, that's still a good sign, right?
I like that. I like that a lot. All right, I'm gonna stay pretty early on. Bolo the Hollywood sign.
Nice. Bolo, a monster speaking in the third person.
I'm gonna say Bolo double Volvos.
Yeah,
I feel like the Volvo is always a proxy for just these people are like a family, a safe family.
They are those people. Bolo long hair.
Mm-hmm. And then Bolo a bowl cut.
Bolo bowl cut. Bolo Evan or Keanu moving his seat quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Say be on the lookout for art. There's quite a lot of art in this movie.
Bolo doggy style.
Amazing scene. I will say Bolo an inhaler.
Oh, yep. Hold on to that. Bolo a fork stab.
Ooh, I had that as well. Love a good fork stab. It comes up every so often in a movie, and it's just great. I will say Bolo paper mache.
Oh, good one. Bolo a game show.
Mm-hmm. And Bolo a knock-knock joke. Very appropriate.
Title line. Bolo free pizza.
I did feel like I need to start using that line after watching this.
Me too.
It's an amazing line.
I have started using it, and I think it's already getting annoying within the house.
I'm going to go Bolo bubble tape.
Very good. Bolo a cameo from Death Game.
Ooh, yeah. A lot of people involved in the original film were involved in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say Bolo, and these are just so cool, Bolo a 3D printer.
I think 3D printers are one of the coolest things that you can have.
They're like, I'm pretty sure they're still from the future. Like, I'm not actually sure they even exist right now.
Right. I've never seen one in person, but I'd be shocked to see one working in person. Bolo, I'd say good throws and catches during an impromptu game of Monkey in the Middle.
You don't see that every day.
Nope.
I will say Bolo spit.
I should have said man in the middle there, but Bolo, a family clock.
Mm-hmm. And this is my last one here, but Bolo, a scar.
Ah, yep.
Crucial scar.
This will be my last one. Bolo, just liking a social media video.
You might have to wait for it.
Might have to wait for it. All right, let's move on to drink to pair with the movie.
Yeah. I'm curious what you have here, because this was not an easy movie, I thought.
This was really hard. So I'm going to go with a fictional drink that in my 20s, after a bachelor party or a long weekend, there might be some anxiety the next day or tummy troubles, but you also might need a little hair of the dog. So we came up with the idea, never created it, of Pepto-Bismol. So it was Pepto-Bismol with some booze, because you're going to have a stomach ache, but you also need to kind of level out a little bit. This movie, just for me, probably because we're both like family men or whatever, just you see all these small mistakes. You're like, oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. You just, it hits too hard at home.
It hits home.
It hits home of mistakes that are out there that I guess would possibly, you just know we shouldn't make. But you want a little booze in you too to get through this. So Pepto-Bismol.
I love that. I love that. I feel like that will exist at some point, if it doesn't already exist.
I just don't think, I think I'm past the age of being able to drink
it. Yeah. I'm going to go with, and it's a bit of a twofer, but I feel like this I don't think gives too much away, but this movie plays a lot with age and youth, and the only way that I thought that I could really address that with a drink is a two-parter here. So I want you to pour yourself a Shirley Temple, nice classic virgin cocktail, Shirley Temple, put that cherry on top. But then I also want you to pour yourself a shot of whiskey. So I think you just drink both of those, and that is going to put you right in the right mindset for this film.
Yeah, those two are the perfect juxtaposition to go together to watch this movie. I think you'll always know when to take a sip of either.
Yeah, you'll know when the time's right.
All right, so we got a couple boozy drinks, some a fictional drink, and I think you're good to go to watch Keanu in Knock Knock.
Enjoy.
That beautiful cake.
Dad, are you sure you can't come to the beach with us?
Dad needs to stay here and do some work.
Bye, guys.
We're so sorry to bother you, sir, but my phone got wet and she left hers at her house.
Oh, I'm sorry. But if you want, you can come in and use my phone.
Thank you.
You're a lifesaver. Not everyone would let strangers into their houses.
You don't look that dangerous.
I'm not so sure.
Could we maybe throw our clothes in your dryer just for like 10 minutes?
Sure.
How long have you and your wife been together?
14 years.
Being with one person your whole life is going against nature.
Well, when you love someone.
Come on, Evan. Buckle your seatbelts. We may be encountering some turbulence.
Guys, I have your clothes. They're pretty much dry.
Surprise!
Oh, stop. I can't do this. I'm married.
Yes, you can.
Knock. Who's there?
Cheating, Evan.
Cheating, Evan? Who?
Cheating eventually gets you killed.
You've been a bad boy.
Your family are victims of your perverted behavior.
This is what happens when you break the rules, Evan.
We have to punish you.
I'm glad we knocked on your door.
Slept on Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keeps shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties.
Welcome back. That was intense.
Very intense. Yes.
It's interesting. It's an interesting comparison. This is our second home invasion film with The Strangers.
Right. It's different though.
It's exceptionally different, but this is also really starting to make clear to me. You always have these questions about would you open your door? Would you do this? And it's now very clear to me why you always say never, ever, ever open the door under no circumstances. This is now, I'm seeing the formative background to the Grove Street mentality.
These girls would have no chance of getting in the house because the door isn't getting opened anyway. I'm not even going to the door. What is it, 12:30 at night? Zero chance.
You had posed this question to me, I think it was probably the Strangers. And, I said I had some response, I think, at the time that was something
It's a logical, non-fear-based response.
Yes, it was sort of in part like, can I overpower this person if I let them in? And this just proves why that line of thinking is just totally incorrect.
He just, I think he says word for word what you said when he lets the guy, if it comes down to it, I think I can take you both. Don't be so sure.
Yeah. So it's been very, very educational.
I'm checking through the curtains upstairs or something, and then just the lights. You can keep banging at the door if you want, but
now I'm pulling up on my phone. I'm looking at you through the ring,
right, exactly. I don't care what are two 20-year-olds doing at my door at 12:30. This feels
nothing
like
good.
Nothing good, and I just feel like I didn't think it would be a setup for like it was. I thought there could be some guys lurking in the woods or something that would then come in after.
Right.
But whatever it is, I'm not opening the door.
No, nothing good.
I'm not your last hope to survive the night of rain.
No, you're just going to get wet. That's fine.
You'll be fine. All right, let's get to the draft.
All right, I feel like I might screw you over a little bit here, but I'm kind of taking a pretty massive first pick, and it's kind of a double pick, but I feel I can't separate it. But I'm taking both Lorenza Izzo and Ana de Armas. I feel like you can't separate them, and their performances are absolutely amazing, and they make this film. It's kind of amazing. You go into a film with Keanu Reeves, who's one of the biggest movie stars of our lifetimes, and then you have going toe-to-toe with him two actresses who at the time were unknowns. This was Ana de Armas's first American movie. She's now a huge movie star. Lorenzo Izzo had done another movie with Eli Roth where they met, and they were actually married at the time this movie was made and came out. But I just thought they were just so impish and just conniving and just electric on the screen. I thought they were awesome.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we picked this movie based on it being a Keanu movie, and it's more like a two female lead star.
Keanu's like the foil here.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the critics would say they didn't like him in this role for a lot of people, not us. But these two girls, I thought, just absolutely crushed this role. And at the time, they came out of nowhere. And like I said, when I saw this movie, I had no idea what it was about the first time. And then these two just crashed the scene with that first scene where they open up the door and he's got to decide to hand her a tissue or whatever else. And it's just where did these girls come from? Because you didn't know them from anything else. I think that's a great double first pick, which no problem with you taking both of them in the first pick. They deserve it for sure. Funny, though, that they go down as the first pick over Keanu.
I know. It's wild.
I guess I'll just take The House with my first pick.
It's an awesome house.
Is just I know he's an architect and his wife is an artist and they live in the good part of I guess LA. But that house is incredible. The hallways and the design and the little bar that they have. It's just incredible.
It's too cool of a house. I could never live in a house that cool. I'm not. No. I would walk in and be like, "What am I doing here? This is too cool for me to even exist."
Right. I'd play David Banner on the stereo and be like, "You guys, you can't play here and live in this house."
Yeah, I feel like if I called the cops would show up and just arrest me on the spot. So there's no way you live here, sir.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, imposter syndrome would come up pretty hard living in that house. But either way, if I could get an Airbnb maybe for a few days, I would love to stay there.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of the sort of interior courtyard. That's just
Right.
That's so cool. It's like so, that's sometimes the only bad part about your backyard is you want to be outside, but then you're like kind of also in your neighbor's space. Interior courtyard. You don't have that problem.
Yep.
That's a great pick.
I had to go with the house. And I'm also going to draft The Breakfast the Morning After. Super sexy night, and everyone was just like on level 10 into each other, and just like the charm was at its highest. And then he wakes up, kind of thinks they might be gone, hoping they're gone, can't find them. And then he goes to the kitchen and sees them just being disgusting and gross and making a mess of their kitchen and drinking maple syrup out of the container. Clearly something has shifted enough to where he's like, I have no idea what's going on here, but you two aren't the same people that were here last night, and something is off. That one scene alone lets you know that they don't give a shit about your house or anything you have going on.
Oh yeah. It's never, I think, in any movie have I ever experienced such a dramatic shift between like the first act and the second act than that. It couldn't be any more dramatic. And you just walk into that kitchen and you're just like, holy shit. Like you suddenly know exactly what's going on here.
You know right away you've been played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the amount of instant, just deep-seated regret that is sitting in the pit of your stomach.
And if you thought you could avoid it by being like, well, they're gone and maybe this didn't happen. And later on, they had the note on the window that said, like, this is not a dream. Like, this happened. And we're going to show you what happened because we're staying put.
Yeah, that was an amazing scene. I am going to take... I really liked the sort of... when there's like a really obvious like time device or plot device in a movie. And I thought they did that really well here twice. Like once the Uber arrival, I thought I loved that first act might have been my favorite in the whole part of the movie. You knew this was not heading in the right direction, and things were just getting more and more and more uncomfortable. And then he calls up that Uber, and it's 40 minutes, and you're like, oh,
it was a real 40 minutes in the movie.
And you're feeling that, and like the clock is ticking, the car is getting closer and closer on the map, and you're like, all right, like salvation's almost here. I just got to make it till this car gets here, and it's getting worse and worse, and you're feeling it as a viewer. And then you think you finally made it there, and that's when just it all goes to hell. But I thought that was probably my favorite. And then also the clock. They used a sort of similar concept with the Father's Day clock that's ticking down to dawn when he's supposed to be executed. But I thought those two devices were just awesome.
So good. And there was no more of a sinking feeling than when he's like, oh, I'll just call you guys an Uber.
Mm-hmm.
And it came up as like 40, 45 minutes or whatever. You're just like, oh, geez, that's way too much time with these two girls here.
Do you think he knew his goose was cooked at that point? It's like these girls are just too hot for 40 minutes.
No. He still kept changing seats a bunch every time they came over and tried to touch him, whatever. And he still went into the bathroom. Wasn't looking, even though clearly he was going to.
Yep.
Still tried to fend them off. I still think he thought he had a chance to get through the night without a problem, but he didn't.
Just one man.
Yeah, right. Just one man. What could he do?
I'm going to go with, and this came up a little bit in the Bolo, but the element where he accidentally likes the social media post at the end. It was like a laugh out loud funny moment. And it was also just kind of another little jab of like real life terror. If you accidentally like something like that, especially if you're like a celebrity, like these things are tracked. Like that's like a real danger.
They'll do a segment on TV if a celebrity likes something a little questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an ex, or maybe an enemy, or maybe he unfollows, or whatever it may be. Those are big decisions now for celebrities.
I thought that it was just like a great little subtle but like exceptionally relatable piece of the movie.
Yep. Totally agree. I'm going to go with Keanu's like pent up anger that comes out after he finds out they're going to kill him.
Mm-hmm. That monologue.
Yeah.
Just so good.
Oh, you're going to kill me? You rape me? You're going to kill me?
Yeah, and a lot of like repetition in it too. Is like very, very
all his defense mechanism in his head. How none of this was his fault, just like coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, man, you just, I get all this, but you still could have not opened the door. You still could have not brought him in. You still had
You in the door. You in the door.
You had all the votes. It's not all on them, man. Granted, they're taking it very far, but it's funny with his just like, you do all this to me and you're going to kill me?
That might be the best monologue in Keanu's career.
It's one of the longest ones, I think.
Yeah. He was probably reading the script, hit that point, and was like, I'm in.
I'm in. And then he read the like part at the end.
Yeah.
All right, so now I go to my sleeper pick.
Yeah, what you got?
We haven't talked about this yet, but I am a sucker for these. And it's giving a little bit away to my later picks, but I'm going to go with the alternate ending they chose not to show. It is available on YouTube. You can go and see, like it was filmed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the alternate ending is, they took Monkey from him, his dog, and he had a pet tracker. So he's following his pet tracker app to somewhere else, like in LA. And he goes up to some other house following them and sees that they're right inside there with Monkey. And they're in there torturing another guy. He has like a bag over his head and his neck's around a noose. And they're in there with wigs on. And they're in the middle of doing their shtick with guys. And he knocks on their door. And they have this panic look in their face like, who's there? And it was potentially leading to like a revenge scene.
Right.
Which would have been amazing, I thought. But I'll get to that part later in some of the other categories. But I thought that would have been a great ending to add on to this one, especially if they were hoping to make some more.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they should. We can get to this later, but that's a great pick. I'm going to go with, for my sleeper pick, the excuse that Genesis gives when she opens the door at first to Lewis when he comes to pick up the art. She just says, "Oh, we're shooting a music video." I was like, that's like the greatest excuse I've ever heard. You can use that for anything. It's so out of left field. No one's not going to believe that because it's too weird. But it excuses literally anything.
And you're at this like super awesome house made by an artist. Of course, a music video would go well. It
makes total sense.
Yeah, they don't just live in some other house. This is an amazing house, an architect's home with an artist who designed it. Like, yeah, this is why I look so strange because I'm having a music video here, and why wouldn't I? It's so believable.
It was amazing, and I really want to start using that excuse.
Do you think we can get away with that as much as like if you're like 22, covered in weird makeup, opening the door to
I feel like we could because we have beards.
Do have beards.
I feel like they'd be like, oh yeah, like of course you're in some weird banjo folk band. Yeah, go do your thing.
You play for beers every other Tuesday night.
Yeah, right.
It's not a cool video like she was shooting. A major laser.
No, but I think the excuse holds up nonetheless.
I think so too. And let's just keep tabs on if we either one of us ever use. Oh yeah, we're filming a music video, and we can tell everyone how it goes on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, but between free pizza and we're shooting a music video, this movie has just some amazing lines.
It really does. The free pizza one is it's free pizza.
I mean, that was one of those things. I was sitting next to my wife, and I was like, "Is that a line, or did he make that up right here?"
I don't know. It was so good because he doesn't need to say anything else. That's the whole perspective of him in this movie as that guy. This is free pizza. I don't have to question anything. Why are you asking me all these questions? This was free pizza. You're gone. Why am I suffering any consequences?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was amazing.
They did have a fun little, a little hint. There was no infidelity, I don't think, during his 14 years of marriage, but sounds like his shoulder scar came from trying to impress some ladies. So there was something.
Yeah, there was a little foreshadowing there about the younger women and his some sort of who knows. I guess that's left to our imagination, but it certainly wasn't said in like a knife twisting kind of way.
No, not at all. All right, move on to what's our superlative this week?
Favorite graffiti.
I think you're gonna have a better one than me, but I'm just gonna go slapstick comedy stuff, and I like the boobs on the statue, and that wasn't even at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I like that a lot. Because it was especially the way it was revealed. He's sort of like poking through the wrapping and then just kind of disrobes this thing. and Lewis just loses his mind, as he should. And it's really well done.
So well done. It's so like it's hard to have graffiti or like drawings on things and not have it be juvenile, but some of it is just so hilariously.
Yeah. I mean, there was so many great ones, and I almost went with just the drawing the dicks on everything. There's something just so classic about just drawing a dick on whatever it is.
Yeah, people in the family too.
Mm-hmm. So I almost picked that, and I was going to pick that, but then right at the end, I saw on his wife's portrait just "I shit art."
That's what I have. I went and rewound it like 4 times. Like, does that say shit art or I shit art?
I shit art. And I don't know. I think that just wrapped up so much of like the movie, the art, the sort of 1%ers, and then also like this movie itself. It was kind of like, I feel like a little tongue in cheek for the actual movie. It was just great. It was awesome.
That's so funny you had that. I had that as my backup too. So,
that's one of those things where whoever is in the, I don't know, prop department or scenery department, whoever writes that out, everyone is just like instant high fives, like, hell yeah, you nailed it.
Nailed that. And then pretty much anything that was drawn on any family portrait was just
those lines were
amazing.
Yep. I rewound and watched all of that scene a number of times. It was so good.
The awful things are like his kids and his wife,
yep.
His arms. We don't do this much. Is it possible to do the spin-off ideas before one change to be a blockbuster?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Because mine kind of goes into the other.
Yep.
So I'll do a spin-off idea, but it's pretty clear, I think, where I'm headed. I want the alternate ending for my spin-off to then just be like, Keanu has lost it. Evan has lost his family. That's gone. He's lost all of his friends. He's lost his career. And now he's just hell-bent on revenge, and he is going after these 2 girls. And then, not stopping there, there was some guy who was great at cleanup. I forget the name.
Oh yeah, it was like Frank or Fred.
Right. He's always going to take this one, and he's a magician. He gets rid of, and he's going to go into the belly of the beast of this network of women going to men's houses and just take down this whole network like John Wick style. Just so we get like this is almost like a prequel to where this woman-hating murderer, Belset on just like hell-bent on vengeance comes from, and it's Keanu in his next role of just like taking out this whole network of just women destroying family men.
I love that idea. I love the network, the idea of a network of these women going around doing this all throughout towns, neighborhoods, the world, and that you could just go in and crack that. And that's really perfect, because I think I had sort of 2 ideas. One was I'd have written here, spin-off, revenge movie, Keanu teams up with next victim, but he's gone insane, which is exactly what you were saying. And then I said I had a second option of just I wanted to follow up with that body cleanup guy. So your movie ties them together in an absolutely perfect way. I love that. And
there's a chance the cleanup guy, Frank or whatever, is someone under the thumb of this lady network. Maybe he's trying to keep his secrets still, and it hasn't got out yet what he did.
That's a great point. I mean,
so maybe he can team up with this dude.
It's kind of shocking that this movie doesn't exist, actually, because this is, especially when they tee it up like that with the alternate ending, because you could even, there's no reason that you couldn't have that alternate ending. You just make a sequel as if that were the real ending. Like, there's no rules.
Right. Exactly. I'm surprised. Like, this could easily just, like, turn... We both love vengeance and revenge movies, so, like, just have a 2-part series where they just destroy him and destroy his life, and then he comes and sees them at the alternate ending, and we go right from there, where he tears them apart, right? And does
fire it up.
Let's fire it up, and let's keep playing ping pong.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the obvious answer. That's just perfect.
All right, now we'll go to you first here for one change to be a blockbuster.
So this is what I wanted to say, but it's really just my personal thing, and this is probably not going to make it a blockbuster. But man, the font, the opening font when they're given the introductions and the title of the movie was absolutely terrible. It was one of the worst movie fonts. It was hard to read the people's names. It looked like somebody made it on their Mac. I was like, what the hell is this? There's no way this is a legit movie. That font is so bad.
I couldn't agree with you more. I thought the font was terrible, illegible. Who knows? There's small things in life that make some things successful and others not. It could be as simple as the right font. So there's a chance that this would have lasted more than a couple weeks in the theaters if they just changed the font.
Yeah, I think changing that font and you have a totally different movie.
You know who's in the movie then.
Right. I know what the name of the movie is. I'm not like someone made this on, Kid Picks or whatever. So that's really what I wanted to say. That's kind of my dark horse pick. I think my other one is also, I think they just need to let it run in the theater more. I feel like this is one of these movies, they probably didn't do a lot of advertising, but I think this is one of those things that it needs to kind of work its way through culture a little bit. And I feel like this would be a big word of mouth kind of movie. And if they just let it linger for a little bit longer, I think it could have had a huge second run.
Yeah, it's like a horror version of Big Lebowski or Office. It's like things that didn't do well when they first came out, but then it just kind of simmered, and all of a sudden it became this huge on DVDs and video on demand streaming type of movie. Yeah, I totally agree. To be a blockbuster, the biggest problem I saw on this was that Keanu was the problem with the movie, and I didn't see it that way at all. I thought he was awesome.
He was great.
It was different seeing him in this role and playing the dad and not being out for vengeance, which he usually is, or on a mission to do something, and he's the good guy being taken advantage of. I wouldn't change that.
This was, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm assuming it is because I read it on the internet. That this was the first movie in which Keanu played a father.
Wow. I'll believe it because you said it. You said you read it on the internet.
That's where I read it, so that's 100% accurate. And it's a pretty intense. The whole movie is about fatherhood in a lot of ways, and it's crazy to go from not ever having acted as a father to being in this role.
Maybe that's why my drink is Pepto Bismol.
Yeah.
I like horror movies that are directed at me. I don't like it. It's for poor women to be afraid of. I don't like this.
I wonder if that's also part of the reason this sort of didn't do well. It does flip it like most horror movies are. It is, the damsel in distress and some vengeful man out there. And this really flips it. Maybe it made people too uncomfortable.
It probably is because the majority of horror viewers are men.
Yeah. And
men often bring their significant other to watch these movies with them. And then all of a sudden you're like, your significant other's mad at you and you're nervous when you're watching this horror movie. But what if One Change to Be a Blockbuster was like, this came out tomorrow with the same cast? Everything's the same.
It'd be huge.
Huge, right? It came out tomorrow and it at least had some advertisement that this movie existed. We both...
It'd be huge.
You watch movies all the time, obviously, and you didn't find out about it till we were doing this, and I barely found out about it just from scrolling through Shudder.
And Keanu and Ana de Armas are filming a movie right now that's about to come out, so they're already still working together. This is still a thing. I think it's a John Wick spinoff. Is
it Knock Knock 2?
It could easily be. This could actually be happening right now.
Yeah, so One Change to Be a Blockbuster. Everything stays the same, and it comes out tomorrow. I think it would crush.
I agree. You'd also be seeing ads for it, which would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be huge if they advertised the Keanu movie. That would have been nice. Any other notes that we didn't get to? I had Vivian's reaction to him cheating. I thought that was funny. And Vivian was the one who was in the original Death Note. I'm sorry, Death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was great. She was a great...
Very
Just a little side moment.
She was the one who was doing it before in the prior movies.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. One question I had for you, and this is coming up more and more in movies, where you're watching somebody use their phone to send a text message or read an email. And there's sort of two approaches. There's you're looking over the character's shoulder and seeing it on the phone, or there's you're printing it right on the screen so the viewer can see it, like the TV screen that movie screen that we're watching. Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference outside of, am I watching the surrounding area of the person texting? If that's the case, then I want to see, this feels like it's a video game on, do you want to click that button to see you in your background, or do you want to stay in your POV mode?
Right.
So typically I think I would stay in the POV mode unless I think there's something I need to see around me.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty clear that I like to see the words right on the screen because sometimes it's hard to read. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's picking up way too small of the screen, and this is important.
Something that in a movie I'd like to be able to see it.
Yeah, that's just where everyone should be at this point. Like we shouldn't really be having to look over someone's shoulder unless, as you said, there's like an actual intentional reason for it.
Right. While we're doing that, something else is going on in the background. But other than that, let's just see what's on the phone.
Yeah, so like when this comes out tomorrow, we'll have that fix.
Perfect. All right. I think we covered everything. I'm pretty excited we got to do this movie. I'm pretty excited we found this movie.
Yeah, this was great. This was a lot of fun. I'm just blown away. I'd never heard of it before.
And we are on part 2 of our little mini series, Keanu mini series. And
Part
what are
2,
you?
Keanu Part 2. We are going into Johnny Mnemonic.
Yes,
which is a wild movie. It's one of those movies that gets better every time I watch it.
I am so excited. I think I saw this movie like 3 times when it came out. Which, do you remember what year it was?
Oof,
It was
90s.
90s, whatever. But I don't think I've seen it since, so I'm very, very excited.
It's awesome.
I can't wait for the
technology is amazing.
vernacular in this movie is going to be amazing. That's awesome. I can't wait for part 2, and this was a lot of fun. Later.